Good afternoon, and thank you for joining me today. I would like to thank the FCAT undergraduate conference organizers for granting me this platform. I'm really excited to be here and present my project with all of you today. My name is Kirtana Menon, and today I will be presenting on Memetic Discourse and its counterproductive interjection within digital workplace panopticons. I know that's a mouthful, but stay with me. In this project, I will be arguing that LinkedIn as an app functions as a digital panopticon. I then discuss what happens when humor, laughter, and satire is added into the panopticon. I will then analyze its impact by looking at a series of memes found on LinkedIn. Through these examples and evidence, I will then discuss the impact that these memes on LinkedIn have on work-life balance. So on one hand, we have LinkedIn, which is an American business and employment-oriented online service that operates via websites and mobile apps. Most of us in this conference today have probably used LinkedIn at least once in our life. On the other hand, we have the Panopticon, which is a disciplinary concept brought to life in the form of a central observation tower placed within a circle of prison cells. From the tower, a guard can see every cell and inmate, but the inmates can't see who is looking into the tower. Prisoners will never know whether or not they are being watched, which sort of pushes them into a form of disciplinary monotony. So how do the two relate? A person's individuality is fabricated into social order when both in the panopticon and arguably when using the app. When interacting with professional connections, it can be assumed that one wants to act as in sync as possible, initiating their fabrication into social order. One epitomizes docility that they would usually have at their workplace when using LinkedIn. A panopticon must also be partitioned in a way that maximizes utility. With LinkedIn, these partitions are seen with the existence of each individual profile. Each user builds their own profile filled with their work and life experiences, after which users head out to maximize the return on the investment made of being on LinkedIn. An intern may connect with the CEO of a company that he is currently working at in an attempt to make his name known and potentially receive a full-time offer. Similarly, a well-established businesswoman may connect with a potential investor. Regardless of the reasoning for stepping out of these partitions, i.e. these user profiles, one thing becomes clear. The goal is to maximize utility. Surveillance also plays a huge role in determining the effectiveness of the panopticon. While the anxiety-inducing notification of someone viewing your profile on LinkedIn is enough to satisfy this criteria, the depth of scrutiny that comes with joining the app is unparalleled. One can simply go ghost mode and view your profile endlessly without you ever knowing. And this knowledge alone is enough to make a user extremely mindful of their demeanor and interactions on this public sphere. Similarly to the prisoners within the panopticon. They don't ever know if a guard is watching them. They still feel obliged to behave as good as possible because of the possibility that someone might just be watching them. Either ways, through these observations, I form my first argument, and that is LinkedIn functions as a digital panopticon. My next question pertains to the state of the panopticon when a new variable is added into the mix. Let's look at laughter, humor, and satire within the panopticon. There are three core tenets of humor, laughter, and satire. The first is that it must criticize those in power. This strategy is particularly useful in times of political dissatisfaction, as there is a greater hunger for political humor that rails against politicians and those in similar positions of power, just like corporate's elite. The final factor of satire is properly channeled anger. Comedic aggression can be focused anywhere, but anger tends to be motivated by a situation that is wrong or a politician that is off beam. Humor is one mechanism by which anger can be constructively processed. There are different breeds of anger, some of which can be channeled into humor and some of which cannot. Let's now look at a set of memes found on LinkedIn and take a look at whether they fall in accordance with the Dagnus framework. It removes the meme's basic guiding principle of one-line setup, one-line joke, and replaces it with a mashup of pop culture and half-baked inspirational quotes on how professional opportunities exist in abundance. The message this LinkedIn meme conveys is not witty, provoking, or even so dumb it's entertaining, the things we've come to associate with memes. And instead, it comes off as a group of people trying to communicate on a platform with memetic discourse they don't fully understand. It's the voice of the CEO who keeps a never-used longboard in their office with an internet narc who tries to speak the lingo while missing the point every time. Evidence 2 uses the he loves me not trope to provide users with an inside joke on the instability that comes with a career in sales, shared by the CFO of a consulting company. Yet again, this meme is outdated and when compared to other memes on other apps, can be considered lame. This serves as a reminder of the phoniness of certain workplace cultures while simultaneously showing what happens when something precious and niche becomes distorted and repossessed by its mass appeal. It is also super, super crucial to recognize that this meme, or all the memes I've showed you so far, were not constructed by a team of hardworking marketeers who use clever tactics to speak to their audience on LinkedIn. It is simply a plagiarized display of outdated humor, copied from Sales Humor Facebook page. But unlike the Sales Humor Facebook page that shared this meme in 2011, this version was posted on LinkedIn in 2016, 5 years later, with little to no consideration of the change in times. As well, the fact that this meme was shared by the CFO becomes comical when analyzed critically, posing key questions on whether the CFO truly understands the micro-level everyday difficulties and instabilities that come with starting out in sales. A simple joke for him, but the reality of life for many of his followers. As a CFO, this is something he can change, at least in his company. Why is he sharing a meme about it instead of continuing or committing to make true change in his organization? While evidence 3 doesn't necessarily classify as a meme, I've inserted it into this section of my project to establish an important perspective to the aforementioned memes presented. Many of these memes come from users like LB Caparonis, a technical program manager at Amazon. If the manager of the company one is working at shares a meme on whether interns should be paid or not, one may feel obliged to follow suit with the opinion of the manager, regardless of whether they agree. Similar to how one may feel compelled to laugh at the unfunny memes previously presented, especially if they come from the bottom of the corporate ladder. In such a circumstance, corporate hegemony and power relations are maintained. Dagnus establishes the fundamental qualities of satire, like I discussed earlier. It's an art form that combines comedy with criticism. Satire is seen as the outsider art, the weapon of the underdog, who uses humor to criticize those in power. Every mode of criticism consists of varying qualities, thus different forms of critical play to the strength of different kinds of people. As such, satire demands justice through humor. But when humor, laughter, and satire through memes is placed in the hands of corporates' elites on LinkedIn, this balance is distorted. The 3 core tenets of humor, laughter, and satire are lost in translation when analyzed through the lens of memes on LinkedIn. The first tenet is that it must criticize those in power. When memes are shared by those in power, it fails to satisfy the authenticity that comes from memes. Instead of bringing together a group of victims, it brings together a group of oppressors. The hegemonic value instilled in this circumstance may lead to engagement with jokes that aren't particularly funny in an attempt to permeate the true reason why people are on LinkedIn in the first place, to make corporate connections. If a promotion can come from laughing at your boss's unfunny joke, who wouldn't want to hit the like button? The anti-establishment sentiment associated with memes are also lost when placed on websites like LinkedIn that do not challenge dominant culture. So as you can tell, all of these factors negatively impact work-life balance. Let me explain how. So the Panopticon is a system of control. Its core purpose is to fabricate individuals and their bodies into social order through certain disciplinary practices. Modern-day Panopticons exist in a multitude of different ways, and in this project, I argue that LinkedIn is one of them. Useful, docile bodies come to be in an office setting regardless, but when this ideal transcends into a digital workplace Panopticon, like LinkedIn, an individual is subjugated to even more social order. This useful, docile body, like you and I, is now met with a new variable within the Panopticon: humor, laughter, and satire. This excites the person, a breath of fresh air, a break from the otherwise rigorous discipline that comes from institutionalized social order. A meme is something known, a precious niche. Albeit, this humor is rehashed and recycled into something so familiar yet so unknown. The meme goes from being the language or the shared language of the underdog, the victims, to something so distant that one feels repelled. Yet they interact and engage in this humor regardless in an attempt to satisfy the core reason why they entered the Panopticon of LinkedIn in the first place: to be awarded for their ability to assimilate, network, and receive greater ranks within the disciplinary space. scrolling mindlessly through these memes on LinkedIn shared by corporate elite has an individual feeling burnt out, unable to detach from work and life. Work-life balance economically benefits organizations as they aid in maintaining material and symbolic control over the meaning and practice of the relationship between paid work and the rest of life. Fundamentally, this balance is distorted, and capital gains come at the cost of personal disservice and detriment. This delirious cycle prompts the same critique of the Panopticon that Michel Foucault established in his work Discipline and Punish. The prisoner of the Panopticon is seen, but he does not see. He is an object of information, never a subject in communication. As Foucault noted, this form of incarceration is a cruel, ingenious cage. With that, I would like to conclude my presentation. Thank you so much to all of you for listening to me, and feel free to reach out with any questions in the future. Thank you.